Laura here from What Laura Likes. So today we're going to talk about how to pray using paper. So if you're interested in prayer journaling or how I use paper to deepen my prayer life, then stay tuned. Hey guys, Laura here from What Laura Likes. If you're new, I want to say welcome. Here we talk about all things with a Catholic slant, and this year I'm trying to make sure that I'm diving deeper into the faith, showing you ways that I deepen my faith so that you can grow in holiness as well, because our whole goal is to become saints. So we're going to learn how to do that together. And so I just share what I find helpful, that I find faith deepening, kind of an aha moment. Sometimes I also go back to basics and talk about things that perhaps you didn't get in catechesis, especially if you're a cradle Catholic like myself. And so today we're talking about different ways to pray and then how to use paper to make it, to take it to another level. So as a child, I loved journaling. I journaled since the first time I think I received my first journal in about 4th grade. I journaled almost all the way up through high school, and there's something just so therapeutic about writing. And when you pray this way, it takes your prayers to another level, because especially when you hear God speaking to you, you can write down his words and you can go back and read them, and it's a way to really just develop that relationship with God, that personal relationship that we all are called to develop. So what I want to do is talk about 3 different ways that I pray with my paper, with my prayer journal. So the first way, and this is something new, but oh my goodness, this is so beneficial, I had to share it as soon as I could, is using something called the pirate method of prayer. And let me know down below if you have heard of this prayer. Father Mike has an older video talking about how priests pray using this prayer method. I heard about it on a recent podcast that I will link down below. I can't remember the podcast name, but she was interviewing someone who used prayer journaling, and she specifically mentioned this pirate prayer. And so it's called the pirate prayer because there's 4 pieces to it, and it's A-R-R-R. So if you say it together, it's like R, you know? So it's A stands for acknowledge, R stands for relate, the next R stands for receive, and the next R stands for respond. And so let's just walk through what this looks like. So A is acknowledging, and it's acknowledging your feelings, your thoughts, your fears. This is really powerful, because usually when I go to pray, I go in and I thank God for all the things that he's given me. I ask God for help. I pray for other people. But do I ever necessarily sit down and say, God, I'm feeling fearful. God, I'm feeling frustrated. God, I'm feeling stuck. I'm feeling, disheartened. I'm feeling sad. And you could also take it to a place, I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling exuberance. I'm feeling thankfulness, thankful. But it's acknowledging where you are in this present moment. And so the way I do this with the journal is I just write down a list of feelings. And I think in the podcast she mentioned, trying to do your top 3 or 4 feelings. And then the next step is relate. And that's when you're kind of diving deeper into each of those feelings, saying, I am feeling frustrated about X, Y, or Z. I'm feeling frustrated that I keep doing the same sin over and over, and I just did it just now, and oh my goodness, Lord, I just want to stop sinning. I want to stop this habit. And so in that relate area, you're talking to God about, whatever it is that you're feeling. I'm feeling so, frightened about the coronavirus. I'm feeling scared about my health and my kids' health. If that's true, this process can really help you. And then the third R is to receive. And this is when, for me, I just stay quiet. And this is where, if you know scripture, a lot of times God will speak to you through scripture. And it's not going to necessarily be verbatim from the Bible, but sometimes things will come to your mind in scripture, especially if you know scripture, especially New Testament or the epistles, but even the Psalms, and they'll kind of flood back, and that's God speaking through his word to you directly. And sometimes it'll just be things like, do not fear. I am God. I am he who has made everything. If you get ill, that's divine providence. That's my will. I'm not going to let you encounter anything that you can't handle through my strength. Like, my strength is sufficient for you. Those kind of things will come flooding in, and you write them down, because when we write them down, they become so much more concrete and they can stay with you longer. And then the last area is to respond and say, okay, God, I hear what you're saying about not being fearful. Therefore, I'm going to move through my day with more trust in you. I'm going to dive into a book on divine providence and understand how your will works with my free will at the same time, because I don't know that very well, and that will give me more peace. Whatever it is, like responding in this concrete way. So Lectio Divina is the next way, and this is another form of mental prayer, but it uses scripture specifically. So rather than having it scripture maybe flood in as God's speaking to you, this is more starting with scripture. And so I'll just walk you through the steps. There's 5 steps to Lectio Divina. And if I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. Usually what I do is I'll just flip randomly my Bible open and let God kind of control that. And what you do is you kind of want to read until something stands out to you, until a line kind of hits you in the face, and you'll know it. Like, and just read slowly and read with the purpose of, okay, God, I'm open to hearing your word. What do you want to tell me? So once you have that text, then you're going to stop. And it could be 1 verse, it could be 2 verses. It's usually not a whole chapter of a Bible. It's something smaller, some tidbit that, even the phrase like, I am the Lord your God. You shall have no other gods besides me. Take that and just meditate on that, and how that relates to money, and how that relates to power, and how that relates to your job and your family. And you could explode that one line of scripture. So the first thing you do with Lectio, after you do your reading, after you have your text, is how does that text apply to everyone? How does having the Lord your God as the only God, how does that apply to everyone? Well, God created everybody, right? And so everybody in the entire world, whether they know it or not, are called to worship God alone. Not pagan demons, not money or power or pleasure or fame, right? We are looking at only worshiping the one true God. And that applies to everyone. And then the second one is I'm not even gonna try to say it in Latin, but it's meditation. And it's, how does that text apply to me today, to my life? And that's where maybe you would explain, like, go, okay, God is calling me to worship him alone, and perhaps I'm not there. Perhaps I spend more time on Facebook than I do in prayer to God. Perhaps I pay attention to politics. Perhaps I'm living in fear right now. Whatever it is, putting those other things before God, like, would be your own personal relation with that text. And then the third one is oratio, or prayer, so speaking to God. And this is where you kind of pour your heart out, right? And you're saying, wow, God, I'm realizing through this meditation process that, I'm not putting you first, that I've been fearful about money, and so money and budgeting has become kind of my big thing, and I should be going to daily mass and receiving the Eucharist and thinking about the fact that you tell me not to worry and not to fear 365 times in the Bible. Like, this is your big message to us, is peace be with you. My peace I give you. The fourth step is contemplation, and this is when we listen to God. Just sit quietly. Something will come. Some thought will come. Some sense of, God is peace, or I am the true God. Maybe it's just going to resonate. It could be just a word. It could be a feeling. And this is where you just want to be open to change. Saying, God, I'm listening. What is it that you want me to do? What is it that you want me to change? And when you're writing all this down, I think that sometimes it centers our thoughts in a way to where we hear better than if we're just trying to meditate and to kind of tune out everything but God. When we have a way to kind of center things directly, it makes it a bit easier. And then finally, actio, so action. Lectio Divina should always end with just like the pirate method, with some kind of concrete step. Going forward, I'm going to read a verse of scripture every day and put it on my wall about not fearing. Or I'm going to make sure that I always start my day with the prayer or with the sign of the cross, which is a prayer. Something, or the Angelus, or something that's going to call me to a sense of knowing you. Start with the daily offering, actually. The morning offering, that's the best way. And then I'm going to, set my alarms for the day. I'm going to, every hour on the hour, I'm going to just do a sign of the cross. Just something that centers me back on the fact that I am a child of God, and God comes first before anything else I'm about to do. And then finally, the other way you can use the prayer journal is just to journal. You can do the daily readings and write down. Sometimes I'll write down kind of like a condensed Lectio Divina, like if something stands out from the reading, I'll write down like the verse and the site, and then make like a little entry about what it meant to me in that moment, which is kind of like a very condensed Lectio Divina. You can take your book, your meditation for Lent book, and I always will write out like words that stand out to me or passages. Sometimes that'll be enough, and sometimes I will then go on and maybe write a prayer underneath. I'm really curious if you guys have tried this with the writing. It's you don't necessarily need to follow a legit formula, but I wanted to give these to you because I think that especially when you're first starting out with prayer, maybe you're feeling like, I'm just not sure how to deepen my prayer life, but I want to. Following these more concise ways can help really get you to a place where things just kind of flow naturally. Because the goal is to kind of always be in prayer. And I have not finished Interior Castle, but I almost feel like I need to go back and start over because it's so dense that you kind of need to read it quickly, I feel like, or just start over. She talks about unceasing prayer and being in direct communion with God at all times, kind of thing. And there's so many ways to do that. So let me know down below if you prayer journal, if you've tried prayer journaling before. This has been so incredibly fruitful, especially for me, the pirate method, because getting those feelings out, especially if you're a woman, like we have some feelings, we have some deep feelings, especially, say you have a fight with your spouse, and like, rather than yelling at him or letting something like fester or even just a big cry, take it to God first through the pirate method, and I think it'll be really, really fruitful. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know down below, like I said, about if you prayer journal. With that, God bless. Have a wonderful Lent. Let me know how your Lent's going down below. Continue to know God, love God, and do God's will. And I will see you again real soon. Bye.